Chris and Chris Talk Movies.
Hello, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris Ferry, and of course, this is my co-host.
My name is Chris Huddleston.
And today we're both semi-excited to be talking to you about the cult classic, ? I had never heard of it. I don't want to tip our hand too much, but today we're going to be talking about Galaxina.
Once upon a time, that hasn't happened yet, there will be a spaceship called the Infinity. And steering the Infinity among the heavenly bodies will be the most heavenly body of them all, called Galaxina, a dream machine, transistorized and computerized to lead her space buddies across the farthest reaches of fantastic adventure with class.
Venusian Thunder Ripple, 2001, a great year. Great.
Galaxina, the beautiful. Galaxina, the untouchable. Galaxina, the invincible. She cleans. She cooks. She does windows and more.
I've adjusted my temperature. I'm better than a human woman.
What year is it? 3035. I got 3033. This thing's slow.
It's party time on the planets with the beautiful people of the intergalactic jet set.
Well, at least you're not two-faced. Or you wouldn't have chosen the one you've got on.
Tension to the fourth dimension as they dodge death rays across the universe. Good guys, bad guys, nice aliens.
Mommy!
I'll get it.
Nasty aliens.
The name is Mr. Spot.
Galaxina, starring Stephen Macht, Avery Schreiber, James David Hinton, and introducing Dorothy Stratten, Playboy's Playmate of the Year as your favorite gal, Galaxina.
Do you have a synopsis for us, Monsieur Huddleston?
I do. This is a 1980 film. It was directed by William Sachs. It stars Dorothy Stratten, Stephen Macht, I think that's how you say his name, Avery Schreiber, some other people. And the IMDb synopsis is, in the 31st century, sexy blonde android Galaxina helms the crew of a space cruiser on a mission to find the Blue Star, a mystical gem that holds unlimited power. And neither of us had seen this or really knew. I mean, I was sort of vaguely familiar with it, but what did you think of this film?
I'm going to avoid being glib, and I'm just going to say it's a pretty low budget. Star Trek, Star Wars, a couple of 2001 references in there. Knockoff, it's a kind of a poor man's aim low National Lampoon spoof of, beloved sci-fi property. There's some alien references in there. Clearly marketed around this Playboy Playmate they have at the center of it, who actually ends up being, for me, the most interesting part of the film. And I say that we don't see any skin, right? I mean, she's clearly a sex object in the movie, but she is a robot that has moments of, I want to be a real person. And I actually think those are the most interesting parts of the film. Like, she has a gravitas, which is a strong word to use, but she has a presence in the film that all these other clowns that are running around, bumbling around her just don't. They're all in some sort of a really low-brow toilet humor You said before we started recording, who is this movie for? And I thought, a lot of time and energy and effort goes into making a movie. And the net effect of this thing is so stupid. I'm like, why was this made? Right? For whom? What did they think they were doing? I mean, I guess that's what did you think?
Yeah, what was, there was another really bad sci-fi one that we watched that I don't think maybe was quite as bad as this. The one, I've already forgotten what the title of it was, but, it has the feel kind of a kid's movie, sort of. I mean, it's
not aimed at kids though.
It's not aimed at kids, but it's very juvenile humor.
I mean, maybe 16-year-olds, maybe.
Maybe. I kind of think more like, written by like a 13-year-old, because it's that kind of level of humor. You've got a sort of a cowboy guy and another guy, and they're police of some kind. And then their captain, his name is Cornelius Butt, Butt. I mean, that's the yeah. And his name
is Butt.
And
the whole movie is that.
Yeah, it's that kind of humor. And there's, I'll save this because this was what I'll get to this in a minute. What I thought was kind of the best part of the movie, but the poster is very. It's almost Barbarella-like. I think you could maybe make an argument they're trying to do a little bit of Barbarella.
Sure.
But, the poster is, and a lot of these cheap movies like this, they sold with the poster. But the poster is actually pretty great. It's not what Galaxina looks like at all. It's like a woman in a red bikini, basically, with a big gun. But, so you have this Playboy Playmate in it, and this was very much still in the exploitation era. So I'm sure people watched this expecting you're going to see this Playboy Playmate naked a bunch in this, and you don't. She's in like a tight, like kind of one-piece jumpsuit thing. And then she serves food to them, and she's kind of in like a sort of a maid's outfit or something, But, I don't know really why you make this exploitation movie and don't put any exploitation elements in it. You know what I mean?
I do.
Because, again, who was really watching this and, liked this humor, Captain Bud or whatever? And there's now what I felt like was the best part of the movie is, so they're on, ships a lot. And even from the very first frame, the ship, their police ship or whatever, is very phallic looking, so it's like, it's a big penis or whatever. But there's a part in the movie where they go to this planet, and it's like a penal colony, and they say that the atmosphere is different, so it's basically everything looks kind of red and yellow. And I thought really liked the look of that. I thought that was a, kind of a smart way to, when you don't have any money, to make it look otherworldly by, using these filters that change the color. And then they just used a Western backlot, and it's just a Western setting. And
aliens riding around on horses, Earth horses, just aliens riding around on horses. I'm like, like aliens do.
Yeah. But I thought, okay, if you don't have any money, you use what you have, and it's like, okay, we're going to go to
But it's so clearly Mos Eisley, and they go in the canteen, and it's so clearly
they go in the cantina. Yeah, and it's basically we have kind of two scenes, because we have another scene in a brothel, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is their Mos Eisley thing, because it's just people in Halloween masks, and then the same thing when they're in this, they go in this bar and it's just a Western bar, but have all these aliens in there. But the sign on the outside says human restaurant or something like that.
Right.
And so the joke is they're eating humans, and there are all these, and I should have made note of some of them because I can't remember what they were. I don't know. But there's a board of all these different, things that they have, and it's these really corny jokes.
Lady fingers.
Yeah, lady fingers and stuff like that. And again, it's like, what adult would write these things and think this is funny, So I don't know. I mean, so you don't play into the other than she's in sexy outfits kind of, but you don't play up the fact that you have this, this playmate. And even, this was the 80s when they put gratuitous nude scenes in everything. They just put a shower scene or, a bunch of women in a locker room, naked or whatever. You know what I mean? And whereas this is like, they don't do any of that.
Nope. To her credit, I mean, she's undeniably lovely. She's tall and statuesque and beautiful. And her outfit is like Buck Rogers. It's like a jumpsuit. It's like one of those spandex kind of jumpsuits. So you can clearly see that she has a lovely figure. But there's no skin. She's a robot. And in the universe of this thing, you're forbidden to... Like, androids are cold and they're not... There's laws against any kind of sexual contact with the robot, and anybody who touches her gets zapped, like she's electrified or something. And they put their finger on it right in the beginning, so to speak. They put they're all hot for her, and one of the guys is like, "Why did they make her look like that?" You're like,
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's a great point. Like,
yeah,
it's the navigational system of the ship, and she sits in this kind of like early '80s chair. It's a sort of an egg chair, and she's but she also gets up and walks around and like serves them dinner and stuff. And you're like, what's the logic here? Like, this doesn't, even as an excuse to put a pretty woman in the thing as the title character, it doesn't make any sense. But again, we're picking nits with a movie that is just stupid from start to finish. Like, they're a police ship or something, and it's like, it's got the kind of call number on the front, but then it says police on the back, as though they're the space police. I mean, it's just poor.
And when they go to this, I thought it was, it wasn't funny, but again, I guess they just,
and it wasn't funny. It wasn't even funny in a dumb way. It wasn't even like, oh boy, it was just like it was like seriously painful eye roll cringe, like terrible jokes.
There's a part where, again, it's, I guess, using what they have, but when they go to this brothel, it's just a house. I mean, it's literally just a house like it would be on Earth. And it's like, why in the 31st century or whatever do they have Earth houses, that look like something from, a house from the 1940s or something, Again, I guess you go with what you've got, but,
I don't know. It's, I feel like this is going to be a really short episode.
Yeah, there's not. Now, one thing that is not funny is the actress, and she was only 20. So Dorothy Stratten, she only lived to be 20 years old. So she died in 1980, the year this movie was released. She had a boyfriend. She actually was involved with Peter Bogdanovich at one point. And this is kind of weird. They dated, and then he wound up marrying her sister. So Peter Bogdanovich had a relationship with her, and then later married her sister. But she had another boyfriend who I think he was like some kind of an agent or something like that, and was kind of sort of pushing her career. But I think he was very jealous of her, and he murdered her. He shot her and then shot himself. And they actually made a movie. I was familiar with her because of this movie. They made a movie in 1983 called Star 80 about her.
Oh, I know that title.
Yeah, it stars Mariel Hemingway and Eric Roberts, and so that's the story about her life, basically.
I think that's a tragedy from any angle, but she's the best thing in this movie, and the fact that she was only 20 is really. I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean, everybody in the 70s and 80s looked like you look at high school yearbooks from the 70s and the PHS yearbook from 1978, right? You look at the seniors and they've all got mustaches. They all look like used car salesmen. They all look 40, you know? So, I mean, I wouldn't have believed that she's 20, but aside from the fact that she's lovely, and she really is, there's something about her, right? I mean, she has a self-possessedness. She's present on the camera. It's not like she does any real acting in this, but everybody else is mugging and clowning and going for laughs and failing. And they have reaction shots of her, and there's a subtlety and a sincerity to her responses. I think that with some training, she could have had a career on screen. Yeah. You know, it probably would have always have been based on the Playboy thing. And that's a way that you start. But there's a lot of people who have careers based on their physical looks. Yeah, I mean, what a shame. What a terrible tragedy.
And like you said, I think it was in the last episode that we did, is just being good looking isn't enough for acting.
No, there's got to be, there's got to be something that comes through on the camera, right? And there's plenty of pretty people, but not all of them have something that comes through on camera and connects to an audience. And not everybody that have that thing are pretty. Mm-hmm. You know, that's pretty isn't the most important thing in film. You have to be able to communicate the human experience, and the audience has to kind of connect with you in some way.
Yeah. And like you said, her being the best thing about the movie, I really felt like those scenes so there's a time on that planet that I was talking about that, again, it's corny stuff, you know, and all that, because she goes into the bar and there's a Mr. Spock guy, and what was his name? Mr. Spot or something like that. And he looks like Mr. Spock, except his ears are upside down. Yeah. You know, it's like,
my name is Mr. Spot, and he's got a Spock haircut, and he's wearing a blue Spock shirt, but the Starfleet symbol is upside down. And instead of having pointy ears that go up, his earlobes somehow are pointy going down.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is like, get it? Like, yeah, we get it. It's just so clumsy, ham-handed, and stupid that it's not funny. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd have to never have seen Star Trek not to get it. Like, how is that? How is that a bit? And what's he doing? What's he doing behind the bar in this restaurant where they eat human flesh? Like, it doesn't. Yeah. Right? None of it comes together. None of it's thought through. And who cares? Except that to make a movie of any kind, you have to get together a ton of people, and you have to get costume people and makeup. You have to, you know, and I'm sure it's just a job for some of these folks, but just like it's a big undertaking to make a movie. You have to really think, this is going to be worth it. And there's nothing in this movie except Galaxina that is even remotely worth it. It's an embarrassment to everybody involved. And the only recommendation I have for watching this movie is that it is an embarrassment to everybody involved.
Right. But that, when she's on that planet, especially those first couple of minutes where she's just kind of walking around and you see, these other characters and things like that, I was just thinking, okay, I'm glad that we're away from these stupid guys for a while, and it's just her.
Yeah.
Because at least there's something interesting about her,
Yeah.
And it really felt like, okay, this is kind of more like a real movie than the rest of this has been,
Yeah, well, she's
to a degree.
she's not mugging and doing these big banana bits. She has thought about her, I put gentle air quotes around it, but character. You know what I mean? She's trying to play a robot that has decided she wants to be. They go into cryo sleep for like 30 years or something. And during that time, she kind of does what David does in Prometheus, or Hal does, right? The robot left to its own devices kind of evolves. And she doesn't speak initially. She sort of teaches herself how to speak and voice emulates. And there's an interesting scene where she's introducing herself to, the man for whom she's done all this. And she's modulating her voice. And they do that in post, but she's like, do you like my voice? I could change it for you. And they do some fun stuff with that. And none of it is particularly revolutionary, but I thought, well, that's actually interesting. For the first time in this movie, that's actually interesting. In 2023, we're talking about AI and machine sentience and stuff like this. And this is not the first movie to have done that, of course, but it feels relevant today versus the space clowns who are making butt jokes, right?
Yeah.
And look, please, I am not above a good butt joke, right?
Sure.
I think that farts are funny. I still think that at 50. But, they're not a fart joke isn't always funny. Like there's got to be a certain panache to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And there's just no panache at all to this movie. It's just stupid.
Well, and I think we've seen kind of time and time again. So Star Crash was that other one that we watched, right? Wasn't it
Star Crash? Well, we haven't talked about it. We watched it, but we haven't done an episode on. Wait, no, Dark Star. That's what I was thinking of.
Dark Star.
Yeah, we did.
Star Crash was
Star Crash.
Yeah, Star Crash. That was a few months ago, but yeah, I think we've seen how rare the so bad it's good movie is.
Yeah, they're unicorn.
Yeah, because what you see, another one was Megaforce. Where for the most part, you watch the trailer for these movies, or you watch, you see the poster or whatever, and you think that's going to be so stupid and so much fun. Yeah. And they turn out just to be boring. That's what all of these movies are, basically. They're just dull.
Yeah, they are stupid, and they are occasionally fun. Like, there are fun moments. I think, excuse me, Megaforce has got fun moments in it where, he comes walking in. I'm sorry I'm so burpy. I'm half in the bag. He comes walking in, and they've designed, the costume design has done this fabulous 80s, like, quasi-space military outfit for him. It's got lapels and stripes and stuff, and the set design is so of a time. What that time would have thought, this is what the future will look like. And there's something about that, I mean, it chimes with me because we were kids then, and I'm just like, that is priceless, But that doesn't hold a movie afloat. You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, that movie is just boring. Yeah. And even if there are 5 scenes where you're like, that is genuinely enjoyable. If a movie's an hour and a half long and you have 5 3-minute scenes, that's a fail. Like, you don't want to go and sit through, oh, let's watch Megaforce. No, let's not. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't see those films. I mean, you and I get enjoyment out of, like, kind of tearing them apart a little bit. But so I am in the middle of producing a short film right now with Travis, whom you know, and some other people. And wow, is it a roller coaster? It's just so much effort and energy and anxiety. And, if you don't finish the thing, then it's nothing. You could get 3/4 of the way through a film of any length. And if you don't complete the film, then it's, the pieces of the film are worth nothing until you coalesce it all into a finished thing. And I just watching a movie like this after shooting all last weekend and putting everything we've got into trying to make something really unique and special, it's just flabbergasting to me. How did this get made? How did it get made? And they stuck with it, right? Somebody watched a rough cut of this and didn't say, this is garbage, let's just cut bait. They finished it. They finished it. And so, they finished it with an air of like, people are going to love this. I'm like, seriously? You looked at these dailies and you thought, perfect. That's exactly what I was going for. That's the take. Right?
And it's not even like I think it would be possible to, and at the time even, have taken some people who were real science fiction fans and said, okay, let's write a movie and we're going to, parody Star Wars in 2001 and
sure.
And Star Trek and all this kind of stuff. Take people that understand why those things were successful and make fun, come up with funny elements of those.
Right.
But I mean, this just feels like somebody that doesn't even really understand why people, it's just like, yeah, Star Wars is popular. Let's do.
That's exactly right.
A riff on that.
This is a movie with no awareness of its audience. So you said it as, who is this movie made for? The movie doesn't know. The movie assumes that science fiction fans are just going to love this movie because it references beloved science fiction. But look at Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? Fantasy, very, very difficult genre to get foothold with, right? Very, very different. It's expensive genre. Historically, it never really got a lot of traction, never really made a lot of money. Maybe you'd achieve some cult classic status, but it just wasn't a commercial thing. He comes along, and I think it's fair to say, from any angle, sticks the landing, right? Why? How was he able to be so financially successful? These complicated, it's a complicated story, right? The books are very complicated. He managed to rope in people who wouldn't have described themselves initially as fantasy enthusiasts, right? He got that audience. But, and this is key, he also got the approval of the diehard fans, right? The Tolkien people who knew all the 3 pages of Elvish poetry and, speak Klingon, right? Those people thought he did a great job. And those people are extremely hard to please. The way he did it was by understanding his audience and honoring the source material, right? He really treated the source material as holy all the way down the line. All the way down the line, from the people who built the costumes to design the sets to the second unit stuff. It was an incredibly detailed and devoted act of love to the source material. And I think that authenticity and that love came through to the diehard existing fans, the Tolkienites, who already, who came hoping to see something that they'd connect with.
Sure.
But that also won over the people who weren't necessarily fantasy enthusiasts ahead of time, because it was a great story about characters who genuinely cared about each other and whom we as the audience genuinely cared about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then all of the lore and the orcs and the history and the wizards and the blah, 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 the pageantry of it goes down smoothly because it's really grounded in sincere and good acting and good, in relationships that you care about. And this movie has none of that. This movie has, the characters are baloney. They're two-dimensional. They're not even two-dimensional. They're like a dimension and a half. And it's all strung together with jokes. It's all filler. I think if you cut out all the filler, this movie would be about 45 minutes long. And that's generous. That's of like, there's versions of the same shot when they're in the western town of aliens riding. And by aliens, I really mean like Planet of the Apes. It's a dude in a jumpsuit with a lizard mask on.
Yeah.
Riding a horse. And I kid you not, there must be 10 full minutes of B-roll footage of just a wide shot of quote-unquote aliens riding horses around a Western set.
Mm-hmm.
And you use what you've got. I'm not going to poo-poo low-budget filmmaking, but guys, there's a point where the padding is just unwatchable. This is not... if I really love the story, if it's Mad Max and you're like, well, that looks cheap, you're like, shut up. This is really good. Like, look at what's happening, right?
And they even threw in, which I don't know if they thought it was funny or if it was just an Easter egg or what, but when she rolls into the Western town, they have the Batmobile, the like 60s Batmobile, and they're like working on it, and it's like, why is and I'm sure it was just, it was on the Warner's backlot or wherever they, did that this day or whatever. So
exactly.
Like, hey, let's just roll that in there.
Let's throw that in. Let's stuff that in this turkey. Here's an apple. That'll be good in a turkey. Stuff that in there. I will say, I do want to try and give this thing credit where it's due. They had a bit that I initially was scratching my head at, but they stuck with it so long. And they committed to it so hard that eventually it won me over, is whenever they say, what's the name of the gem? The Blue Star or something?
Yeah.
They do a little fanfare, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, you must find the Blue Star. And it's like, da, 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 and everybody on set goes like, looks around. Like, where is that crazy music coming from? And they're genuinely perplexed. Like, I feel like these scenes were times when the director was like, cut, all right, we have to do it again. Everybody, you have to look really confused. Like, imagine, you can feel directing. That's how much they committed to this bit. I would say it happens 15 times in this movie.
Yeah.
And near the end, they play with it a little bit where the music changes for some reason. Somebody else says it, and it's a different musical tag. And everybody looks around, but now they look perplexed because the music is different, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the end, somebody says it, and it doesn't happen. And everybody looks around like, why didn't it happen? And he repeats it louder, and then it happens, and everybody looks around, but they look kind of relieved. And it's not even particularly well done, but it is one of these things in the movie that they commit to. They double down on it like it's way better than it is. It's never explained. Like the power or the value of this Blue Star gem is never unpacked, right? At least in Star Trek, if it's the dilithium crystals, they talk about why we have to have the dilithium crystals. And, what you have to understand about dilithium crystals is if two of them get too close together, then they do, bend. Whatever. They blah, blah, blah. They explain it to you. They invest, importance in it. And in this one, it's just like, we got to get the thing. Bop, 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 and they spend more time in the joke. But I did actually chuckle a couple of times near the end, because it's so apropos of nothing. And they stick with it so hard that I kind of grudgingly had to be like, all right, no, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it showed a commitment they didn't show to any of the rest of
Right.
the movie. And there might have been one
Well,
or two.
and
Most of it's just dumb.
yeah, and the thing I also think with so bad at good movies, there are some memorable scenes. Like we watched Deadly Friend, where it's this
Right.
teenage girl who dies, and then her boyfriend or wannabe boyfriend brings her back as a robot.
Puts a
And
chip in her.
I mean, there's a bunch of really funny things in it.
Yeah.
But the standout scene is there's this mean old woman that lives next door or whatever, and at the end of the movie, she throws a basketball at her and her head explodes. And you're just like, oh my God, and it's just hilarious. It's just so outrageous.
Well, and that actor walks around with her kind of robot
Yeah.
head. I am
Yeah.
a robot.
Yeah.
But there is a charm to it that is like, that was an entertaining. I mean, is it terrible?
Yeah.
Sure. Is it good? I don't know if it was good, but
Right.
do I regret having watched it? No. I mean, it was fun to talk about. It was fun to there's a joy to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there just wasn't in this one.
And I think another example I think of, like, we did Creep Show
Creep Show
for this podcast. Creep Show is a great movie, but we've not done Creep Show 2, which I think is a bad movie. But a lot of people really like Creep Show 2. But there is one of the segments in it is this woman, like this rich lady, who hits a hitchhiker or a homeless guy or something in her car and kills him. And then she continuously sees him,
Right.
and he'll come up to he'll like appear at her car, and the tagline from it is he says over and over again, "Thanks for the ride, lady," which I still to this day with people who know the movie, if like somebody gives me a ride, I'll say, "Thanks for the ride, lady." And
Thanks
it's
for the
stupid,
ride,
but
lady. Yeah.
yeah, that's how it is. And also there is a cameo with Stephen King as a truck driver.
Right.
And he gets out, and I forget exactly what his line is, but Stephen King has never been a good actor.
No.
And he delivers his line really horribly. It's like, what the hell happened here or something like that. And it's really stupid, but it's hilarious too, So there's nothing in this movie that's like that, where it's even just like unintentionally funny, where you just crack up laughing because they bumped into something, or, there's just none of that.
Right. It's interesting. I find it interesting that Stephen King would have wanted to be in the movies, because he is not one of these people that the camera loves. He's very uncomfortable on camera. Whereas Stan Lee, although not a great actor, was always able to pull off his cameos with aplomb. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
They always put Stan Lee until he died in the Marvel things, and it became a kind of an Easter egg to the fans. But he pulled out, he'd have one or two lines, and he would pull them off. I thought, the whole point was that you recognize it as Stan Lee, but it wasn't like okay, stop the movie while we do this stupid obligatory bit. He would usually get a laugh. He showed up one time at Iron Man with a delivery for Tony Stark, and he mispronounces his name. He's like, I got a package for Tony Stank, right? And Don Cheadle laughs. Is like, this is him. This is Tony Stank. Thank you for that, And the other guys sell it. But he carries the water in those scenes. And I understand the creator of the material wanting to be a part of the closing of the loop, but it's not like Stephen King needed the money. Of course, Stan Lee didn't either.
My guess is, I think he's the first to admit that he's not a good actor. I don't think he has any illusions about ever being a good actor. I think it was probably just kind of fun,
Yeah.
maybe he liked being on the
Yeah,
movie sets
sure.
or whatever. I know with Creepshow, that's probably the biggest role he's ever had in a movie, and George Romero talked him into it. I don't think if I'm just going by memory, I don't think he really wanted to do it, and he was like, no, this is going to be, you're right for this or whatever, and he didn't really want to do it. But
I think that particular thing that he did in that was upsetting, but I do think that if you had got an actual actor, it would have been better.
Oh yeah, better for sure. Now, and he readily admits this now too, but it wasn't acting, but he directed Maximum Overdrive, and he famously says that was just, he was on a lot of cocaine basically, and he was just super coked up. And there's a great, if you want to, there are YouTube, there's a great YouTube video of him, I believe on MTV, and AC/DC did the soundtrack for that, and Stephen King is on MTV interviewing AC/DC, and he said that like he was just out of his mind on cocaine, like during that interview, like on TV. And it's really crazy to watch because you could watch it and you're just like, oh yeah, he's like out of his mind. But so, he says now basically it was just hubris, that it was like, oh yeah, I could direct a movie.
I'm the king of the world. I could do anything.
Yeah. Hubris, and he had all kinds of alcohol problems and drug problems and everything. And, so like I say, he's not shy about admitting all of that. But, and, I don't know if you, if it were one of us, if you became some huge best-selling writer and they're just like, hey,
sure.
You have experience with acting and directing and movies and everything, but if, they're just like, hey, we're going to give...
I don't have experience
give you
with
this
fame, and I don't have experience with fortune. I don't have any illusions. I don't judge, really. I mean, clearly I do, but I think when I step back, I think that success like that, it would affect you. It was certainly would affect me. I think it's a very common story. You kind of blow up, and then you think, I deserve this. I don't know exactly how to quantify what happens to you, but it does. A lot of people kind of lose their way and then have to find their way back to themselves and say, wow, that was... Sorry, everybody. Like, I got a little out of control there. Kind of went to my head.
And I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I don't want to be like running down Stephen King because I think over time, he's shown to be seems like a pretty great guy, and now,
Certainly
is pretty
a good author, yeah.
Yeah, a good author. But yeah, no one can, I think the people that reach that level of fame and don't just lose their minds, and continue to be, just decent, humble people it's got to be tough, because you just don't know what that would do to you, But I definitely don't think it would be hard to just be like, hey, you want to make this movie? Okay. I can do that.
Especially
I wrote a bunch of books. I can make a movie.
Especially if you're all coked up.
Yeah, how hard can it be? Yeah, I've never used cocaine before, so I don't know what
yeah, but
but
I haven't either, but I
can imagine.
We have enough stories about it. It makes you feel like you're capable of great things. Makes you feel very confident, very optimistic, very positive.
So I guess maybe we're not really talking about Galaxina anymore. So what do you think as far as...
Yeah, what else is there to say about it? Do I recommend it? No, I don't recommend it. But, it's not the worst thing we've talked about on this show. I just think...
It's not
you look at the marketing, and
I think it's Kill and Kill Again our low bar.
Yeah, probably
our worst movie.
I think you look at the marketing and the time frame and you think, oh, that might be really good. It's not. I mean, if you wanted to have it on at a party in the background and people are walking by the TV and with the sound off and they're like, what the hell is that? I mean, that's the kind of, it's not, you watched it on YouTube. I paid $3 for it or something like that. And
yeah, watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube for free. It seems to be uncut, and it looks good.
And that's not so much money that I was like, oh, I wish I had the money back. But I'm kind of like, if we hadn't have been talking about it, I'd have turned it off. Yeah. If we weren't going to have this conversation, I just wouldn't have watched the entire movie.
It's a slog.
I'd been pass. Yeah. Yeah. So, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think as a curiosity. I mean, honestly, she's kind of somewhat lost to history. I mean, I doubt there are many younger people who are even aware of her, which is sad because, like you say, I think, she only did 2 or 3 movies, but, I think she could have gone on to do some okay stuff,
Sure.
But I would say, if you're curious about this actress, sort of watch the movie Star 80 that is about, what happened to her. And I read, just looking at her IMDb, this is really creepy, but they said for the Star 80 movie, they filmed the murder-suicide scene in the actual apartment where it happened.
Oh my God!
Why they did that, I don't know. That's pretty macabre,
macabre.
and morbid, But yeah, they shot it in the actual.
Talk about exploitation, Jesus Christ!
Yeah. But it's a movie that I think I've seen before. I definitely knew. I know of the.
It rings a serious bell. Yeah, I think I'm certainly aware of that being a splash. I don't know that I've seen it.
Because it's an 83, so it's a pretty early, Eric Roberts movie, and then also I think it's Mariel Hemingway who is in it. So yeah.
Yikes. Well, what do you want to do for next time, mon ami?
So I was, before we recorded, I was mainly looking on Hulu, and I was just kind of looking at stuff on there. And I put just a few random, I made a little list of a few rando things. There is a movie called Prospect, a science fiction movie from the last few years that has Pedro Pascal. It's him and his daughter go to this planet to find some minerals or something like that. I don't know. So Pedro Pascal is the Mandalorian. There's also a new, there's a Boston Strangler movie that stars Keira Knightley, and what it seems more kind of like a drama than a thriller, a horror-ish thing. Yeah, and it's about Keira Knightley, and there's a couple other women who were these reporters who kind of broke the story, or it seems a lot like Zodiac.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw Zodiac. So that's one. Another that popped up on there that I have never seen. I know a lot of people like. I don't know if you've seen it before. Have you ever seen The Boondock Saints?
Nope.
Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it. Sure.
It's Daryl from The Walking Dead, and the guy who, I forget what his name is, but was on the Young Indiana Jones show. Played the 20-year-old or whatever Indiana Jones. It's like a cult classic, kind of action thing, I think.
I mean,
I've never seen it.
I do feel like I should have seen the Boondock Saints. I mean, maybe we should just do that to kind of mark it off a list of, right? I mean, what year was that?
It's sometime in the 90s. I want to say it's 94, 95, something like that, sometime in the 90s.
There's a part of me that feels like I should have seen the Boondock Saints. And
it's one of those I've just never gotten around to. Another, we haven't done a lot of comedies, but a couple of comedies. I've never seen The Cable Guy before. I don't know if you're a fan of the Cable Guy or not, but
I don't know that I've ever watched it all the way through. It's not really a Jim Carrey comedy. It's very dark.
yeah, it's a real dark comedy.
Horror.
And I'm also interested in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That's that one that also has Pedro Pascal, but that's the one with Nicolas Cage playing himself, where this billionaire like hires him to like come to his island and just hang out with him or whatever.
I've never heard of what you're talking about.
Oh, you never heard of it? Okay, I think it came out in 2022. I don't know. You could check out the trailer, but it's Nicolas Cage playing. He's Nicolas Cage because
And Pedro Pascal is playing a billionaire who hires.
Yeah, he's a billionaire, and he basically just wants to hang out with Nicolas Cage, and so he like says, "Hey, come to my island, and I'll pay you.
I'll pay you. It's a
to be-
gig. Just you don't
to
need
be
to
like
do
friends
anything.
with you
Just
or whatever."
just hang out.
Yeah. So it's Nicolas Cage is playing himself.
That I have two thoughts of that. One, that sounds really interesting. Two, if it was really good, I'd have heard of it, right? So I mean, there's a part of me that's kind of like,
I think it was viewed as pretty. Let me see what. So Galaxina, I don't know if I said or not, is a 3.6 on
to be
IMDb.
fair, we just watched Galaxina, so I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm suddenly getting all highbrow about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of that sounds good. Do you have any urge in a particular direction or other?
Maybe we can just let's just talk about it, before next time. Maybe not commit to anything yet. So Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent it's a 7 with 119,000 votes on IMDb.
Not bad.
So,
Pretty
yeah.
good.
I mean, I'll watch most. I don't even necessarily enjoy Nicolas Cage. Ironically, I like Nicolas Cage a lot.
I think
he's
when
done some bad
when he
movies.
shows up, he does really interesting work. I think
It's an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes.
adaptation is really a terrific performance.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's capable of doing, leaving Las Vegas. I mean, he's capable of doing really terrific work. He just sometimes takes gigs that he's kind of phoning it in, and it's disappointing because you go, you know
what?
I bought a ticket on the basis of your past work, and I feel like you're not even, it's not just
He
the look
did
of your face.
This was pretty interesting. Last Sunday he was on 60 Minutes. They interviewed him on 60 Minutes, and they actually talked to him about, the bad movies. And he's like, "Yeah, I did bad movies, but he's like, I never phoned it in on any of them." He's like, even the bad ones, he was like, I tried to bring something to it. And the interesting thing was, he said his, so he did a movie, I think it was 2021, called Pig. Did you ever see that?
No.
And I was kind of disappointed with it. It got a lot of hype, and he was this chef who had he was this famous chef, and then he gives it all up and he moves out into the woods, and he has a truffle pig, who's basically like his pet. And also he makes his living from him because the pig goes and finds truffles, and, that's how he makes money. He sells them to restaurants, and it's a really sad film, and his performance is great in it. I was just kind of underwhelmed with the movie overall, but he said that he thinks that's his best performance, even better than Leaving Las Vegas.
Okay.
So yeah, so
I mean, I don't have any stake in it.
yeah, it was just kind of an interesting interview, but
you can see when an actor has put work into something, and you can see when an actor is just winging it. And there's a lot of those quote unquote bad movies that he's just, he's just sort of showing up, and he's doing what people buy a ticket for. You're like, okay, I mean, good for you that you have a brand that, enough people will. I mean, at a certain point, if it gets someone to buy a ticket for it, that's a win, right? But that's not art.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know.
Just capitalizing on what? I mean, again, I'm not judging. The guy's got a career. It's just Michael Caine has done over 100 movies, and I think Michael Caine does do Michael Caine will take the script and he'll do the work and he'll make decisions, and he shows up with a certain respect for what he's doing, like the craft, and he can recognize that it's a terrible movie and that doesn't save the movie, but he does the work. And I think there's a number of Nicolas Cage movies I've seen that look like he might learn the lines, right? And he's not sitting there being like, line, he knows what to say, but he's just like, I don't know, we'll kind of spackle it together. And that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, you're not even trying. I mean, you're putting energy into it and you're looking at where you're supposed to look and you're hitting your mark, but you didn't treat this like it was good. It's not. It's not good. But you're just kind of like, they paid me to show up and hit my marks and be Nicolas Cage, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's a disappointment. You're not doing anything to elevate the film. Right?
You're right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, there's definitely been stuff that he's been bad in, for sure. So yeah, we'll talk off mic or whatever.
Folks, we're going to figure it out. Yep, we're going to figure it out. Chris and Chris talk
and
movies.
It may not even be one of those movies.
It might not. It might be something
a total surprise.
Totally different. Despite myself, I watched the Flash trailer with Keaton as Batman.
It looks good, doesn't it?
And I am not into the DC universe. I have found them to be disappointing by and large. But I have to admit that I am intrigued by seeing Michael Keaton return to Batman and them play around with the multiverse. I'm kind of interested in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see it for sure.
Anyway, Chris and Chris Talk Movies at gmail.com. That's our handle. We're on the socials. We have a YouTube version of this. We've got a podcast version of this. Thank you so much for joining us, however you're joining us. And for
we've had a French accent. We've had a German accent.
We've had a lot of different accents, and this one is, I don't know where this is from.
That one's, that's your Werner Herzog.
No, this is my Werner Herzog when people talk very slowly. Yeah, I've had some beers. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what we're going to do. We're going to do it again, and then we will put another episode up, and I hope that you will like and subscribe and join us for that next one and enjoy movies. And if you are in my area of East Hampton, Massachusetts, I hope that you will come to my film festival that is happening from May 12th to May 26th. It may actually happen before this one comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We may.
Oh, well, I hope that you came to it if you're hearing this after May 26th. I'm not good at advertising. So, unless you have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
We will talk to you next week.